On one hand, adding real tracks in and blending them slightly and nicely and all this business can be really helpful for adding that realism. And tom tracks is one of my favorite ways of doing that when we have good tom tracks. When toms are good, they already have the attack they need, they have the meat, everything's there. And the bleed can actually be very advantageous to just kind of creating an overall cohesive sound that doesn't just sound like, one kick going beep, beep, and one snare going pop, pop. It kind of gets us out of that electronic drum sound quite a bit by just having some natural crap in there. And I don't know why it works that way, but I've seen it too many times. However, whenever we have crappy toms, like we do in this particular case, the lack of attack is a real problem. And so what ends up happening, and we probably covered this in another video, was with the tom bus. Let's see here. We're scooping out, what do we got here? Well, all kinds of low end, and then we're pulling out all kinds there at 236 hertz, 15 decibel cut. And I didn't think that was enough, and so we used the Transient Designer to really boost the attack and reduce the sustain. And then that wasn't enough, and so here we are again, adding a little more of the low end back, which is kind of counterproductive, and maybe I should go back and fix that. But and then we're scooping out more mud and junk and trying to avoid that 1K kind of tom sound. What's left is mostly attack, but there's not. The end result here is these tracks, when soloed, aren't good. But it works most of the time. It works when the toms hit because we're using the samples too to kind of balance the whole thing out. So let's pay attention to the toms here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Hang on, let me hit that button. Actually, yeah, let's check out the toms without the samples in there first off, because there's a few problems here. And you can hear the exact sound that I like. I want that stick click to be prominent. Now with the toms filling out the body, which we're in pretty decent shape in regard to the actual tom sound. And I just happen to like that stick click, that 10K or 8K, whatever that is, quite a bit more than other people. Whatever, that's your own business. But what my tastes have kind of painted me into a corner, because you can hear how loud the ride and hi-hat are just when no toms are playing. Check it out. And a little of that is good, but the extent that I've processed these toms, which maybe is wrong, maybe it's right, whatever, it's what I did, has now created a problem where it's getting a little bit harsh. I don't like the overall sound of the cymbals most of the time. Now, the problem is, so what I'm going to do here is to say, forget the whole 3D tom business, because when they're EQ'd that heavily, there's no 3D. There's no mid-range really left. So how about this? One way is just to I have a folder track here in Cubase where I could cut all my toms at once, which makes this really fast and easy. And I'll highlight all the junk I don't like, and let's just pull it down by 5 decibels, 5.4. That's a good number. What we got? All right, so it sounds the same now, but let's check out our verse now to see if it's still as clangy and as it was. The whole mix here. And I guess I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's make them the full volume and listen to the cymbals. So the toms are back, destroying everything. Those cymbals are so, they're actually fighting with the vocal in a weird way up top. It's causing some, I don't know, causing some mischief. So let's yank them down 5 decibels, which isn't the end of the world. In fact, as you heard a minute ago, it didn't really do that much when it was soloed. Of course, in proportion, we'll hear things differently, so let's check it out now. And again, listen to the way the vocals top in when his S's and all that, how they interact with the cymbal. That's the best way to gauge this particular effect here. Before, where it's all crappy. That's bad. Now let's yank it down 5 decibels again. And then listen to those vocals, the top end. there's something about this vocal sound now where I can picture him. I know what the singer looks like, so maybe it's easier for me. But I can imagine him singing the song, like, oh, there's the star, he's singing the song. And before, whenever those cymbals were all clangy and all this, there was something not starish about it. There was something like there's other important things going on. And it really threw me off the way I'm listening to this song, at least in these headphones here. I really hated that. So just by going through, and there's a few ways we could do this. I'm cutting the tracks and physically pulling them down 5 decibels or whatever. And that's one way. We could, since this is all on a tom bus, I could just automate lines, and when the toms hit, make them go kaboom, and then fade them down and all this stuff. It really doesn't matter, and I think this, for me, in Cubase, and the way I have my project set up here, just going through and yanking them down, it works pretty good. And this is really helpful when you have a drummer who is tasteful with his tom use. And this drummer did a great job, I thought, of using his toms during tomish parts. And then there's no reason to be just randomly beating on them. I never really understood that. Tom should always have it be an impact tool. And I preach about that all the time. But whenever you use a tom to, for destruction and not just for little tiddlywink, little things that don't really matter, you can see it's real easy to cut those kinds of things out because they are kind of planned or separated, or I don't know. When you hit them for a reason. And that makes us a whole lot easier. So anyway, you get the idea here. So it's okay to EQ the living hell out of the toms and just chop the damn things out. All right, next video.